I'm Dr. Michelle Stevens. I am Chief Revenue Officer of Felt, and I am from San Francisco. I have two small boys. They're 9 and 11. And so Felt is a digital health platform that actually connects with other health and wellness apps that track metrics or track health data. And this could be like products or content or actual like digital metrics like your heart rate, respiratory rate, O2 sat, etc. And what we do is easily provide care services through the app that you are delivering your product and service through.
Interesting. So your focus is working with the developers of perhaps bespoke solutions that might be focusing on a particular modality or like particular type of illness, like anyone that
it could really be anything from like nutrition to mental health to urgent care. We're working with a few products right now, and really they're in the fertility through pediatric space. But it's because these folks are trying to track their health metrics in the consumer world, and they don't know what to do with the data. As a neuroscientist, I'm really passionate about understanding health through data, but collecting data for the sake of data, I believe, is ethically wrong. And so I want to be able to close the loop on healthcare, and I think delivering care services in this way can be one of the ways in which we do that.
Yeah, interesting. And so by working with the different developers or technology solutions that might then be, I guess, connecting in through Felt, why couldn't they just build something like that themselves?
Great question. I'm so glad you asked. This is actually the problem that I ran into with my previous company, Oathcare. But really, when you deliver care services, there is so much operational cost. There is so much risk and heavy lifting. And it is a whole company in and of itself to provide care services. Now, you see a lot of these vertically integrated health, digital health services that do the full stack, do the whole thing. They want to own the whole thing, from the audience to the pipeline to the data to the care services. And unfortunately, this is what could actually be the end of digital health products vertically integrated, because they're trying to do too much. They have too many services at stake. And what we are offering is a very slim way of entering into a product that can easily turn on, like within a couple of weeks, a care providing service.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, what's the saying about you don't want to go 1,000 miles wide and 2 inches deep? If you can work with people who do it all the time, then you're going to be able to do it a lot better.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And so you mentioned that this was the problem that you ran into before. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my previous company that I was the co-founder and chief nursing officer was Oathcare. And Oathcare was a digital health platform that was seeking to be a many-to-many model of healthcare. So, healthcare is usually delivered one-to-one. But we situated parents from pregnancy through age 5 with a wide variety of clinicians. So think doulas, nurses, doctors, mental health therapists, all sorts of speech, lactation, sleep consultants, and put them all in the same room with each other. So you could have everyone in the same room talking to each other, delivering care advice and support, communicating in one space to learn from each other, but be able to actually not have this sort of silo, generic, often patriarchal sort of delivery of care, but have it be communal, have it be helpful so that people can feel fully supported wherever they are at it.
Yeah. And so we were talking before, so and you've obviously moved to Felt now. What happened
That's right.
with that model?
Yeah, so we actually raised quite a bit of money for being a seed stage company, a bit over $9 million. And it was during COVID, of course, during the pandemic, where really the move was to go direct to consumer. We had a very lovable product, but we started scaling right as people were kind of turning away from consumer health. And so we were finding ourselves really having a hard time scaling our product because we were going a single D2C channel. We actually even turned down, honestly, a hospital health system contract because we were told to focus on a single go-to-market strategy and really double down on that. So many lessons to be learned. I think one of them is definitely to yes, open up all of your go-to-market channels, all of your go-to-market strategies to see and test where your product will actually land and where it will build traction. We built traction in D2C. It was a great channel, but it shouldn't have been the only channel.
Yeah, interesting. No, well, that's it's interesting on that side, making sure you don't close doors. I guess at that early stage, you want to ensure you got that product market fit, find the right place that can have traction now.
Yes.
Even though the other ones might be great, but I guess you need to demonstrate that fit early on. So there's some good lessons there. Any other kind of, because there's a lot of health tech startups and innovative ideas here at Health. Other advice that you'd give to those that are looking to, I guess, transform the system through technology and actually have an impact?
Yes. Healthcare is a big bureaucratic system. And as much as we may want to transform healthcare is very fragmented and broken in a lot of ways. I think the thing to keep in mind is to actually build within the system as much as you can, knowing that you are going to try to get as far away from the system eventually once you have more control and autonomy over the market.
Yeah.
But I think I was a little too naive and wanting to build too outside of the system early on, which I think created more friction than ability to really fit in well. We were too differentiated, if you will, which I think VCs love to hear how differentiated you are, love to hear, but in terms of the market, that could be a very different scenario. I also think healthcare requires a lot of capital dollars, especially if you're going to change fundamentally the model of healthcare. And so actually be bold and brazen and go out and raise a lot of capital. And I know this is also very antithetical to what people hear, but if you really want to make something as big and bold of a change in healthcare, you need a lot of capital to do it. And so don't be afraid to ask for those big dollars and to really take the time to prove out your model and to get it to scale.
Where do you find those dollars would go? Is it just getting heaps of people to be able to build stuff, or is it just to buy more runway?
It's everything, right? It's in your product and how you are building it. It is in your team. It is in the culture. It's in actually building a new brand around what you're doing. We actually had to have people start paying attention to community models of care. We had to have people actually start paying attention to early childhood care, which is wild, but thankfully there are movements now, I think because of Oath, that have inspired people to focus on parental health and pediatric health. Yeah, I mean, this is such a highly engaged audience, pediatrics, especially with parents. They're willing to spend all the money, they're willing to spend all the time and change all of the behaviors in order to care for themselves and their child. And I think that's a ripe audience for digital health implementation.
Yeah. Well, it's an area that you're super passionate about, being that early childhood care and the pediatric side. Why is that such a strong focus for you? And what's the big issue there?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. So my PhD is actually on understanding early childhood stress and its direct correlation to adult health outcomes. And I don't know if you know this, but early childhood stress, particularly the phenomenon of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, they have a direct correlation to 7 out of the top 10 chronic illnesses we face in America today. And so that's to say, if we actually started paying attention to early childhood stress, quantifying it, really implementing interventions, we would be able to then radically improve health outcomes for future generations. I was working on particularly a quantitative measure of stress. We have so many biomarkers in our system that can actually tell how our body is responding to stress individually. And yet we only measure and track a child's height, weight, and head circumference through age 18. And so this is a massive disservice that is happening. And I'm very passionate about trying to implement new changes and protocols for early childhood.
Yeah, I didn't know a lot of that, so I can see how that would be super important. A lot to be done. Sounds like there's been some awareness there, but a lot more work to be done. And then thinking about other things that you're doing. What else are you working on in the ecosystem?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So I'm also building a nonprofit. It's called Act 17, and it's really a nonprofit to bridge the gap between faith and technology. So I happen to be Christian, and Christian happens to be hyper technology focused. So I don't think of another industry like tech that is so aligned with Christianity, if you will. Very future thinking, very abundant mindset, very co-creative, and very forgiving. Like, of course, the second-time founders, you're more likely to get funded, right? Whereas if you maybe fail in other industries, you're out of luck. So I think there's something to be said around understanding how you can bring your own faith and spirituality into your work, and how you can actually build, not for self around money, fame, and power, but to actually build for other, to build for the eternal, to build for future generations.
Oh, that's cool. I like that cross section there. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Thank you.
And lastly, we're at health, still early on in the dance card. What do you hope? I believe you're up on stage. You've got a session tomorrow. What are you hoping people take away from that, either from seeing your session or from the conferences?
Yes. So my session's on So You Want to Be a Founder. And it's going to give you the real on founder life. It also has venture capital partners as well on the panel. And so what I'm really hoping people will understand is that it is very difficult to be a founder, and there are a lot of real hard lessons learned. And I think people are not willing to share and be vulnerable about them because a lot of it has to do with self, and a lot of it has to do with not performing well.
Yes.
And I, for one, have benefited my whole life from learning from other lessons, including my own. And so just expect a real sort of fire and hot take perspective on founder life.